Hi, I'm Kirsten Wilkins, freelance urban designer, resident of the city of Cape Town, mom and wife. Thank you for watching this clip as I discuss democracy, social justice, and the language of design. My initiative is largely about something that breaks my heart. In 2014, we will be celebrating 20 years of democracy in South Africa. Yet what I see is frightening. When I look at the large amount of legislation that determines how we live, how resources are distributed spatially, how transportation is looked at, how we look at housing, all those big city issues, I look at legislation and policy making and see that actually it's advertised as a participatory environment, but really it isn't at all. The Gunning Fog Index is a fantastic algorithm which measures the amount of formal education one would need in order to understand a piece of text on the first reading. The majority of legislation that I look at that deals with spatial planning and the design of the way we live measures on average around 18 on the Gunning Index. That means 18 years of formal education required in order to understand the text. And then to participate in a dialogue around that text is probably something else altogether. Census 2011 information shows us that only 14% of the residents of the Western Cape have had any exposure to tertiary education whatsoever. That's not necessarily graduating, but that's just exposure to education after matric. So you can see that while a democratic process is touted, very few people end up speaking on behalf of many when it comes to city planning, the distribution of resources, and ultimately the way that spaces are created in which we live. My interest is to make that public. I think we're in a fantastic position to understand democracy in a year 2014 where people will listen, where technology is such that we can make information available, and the most exciting thing for me in all of what seems quite dreary is that for the first time in a long time, government is looking again to empirical research in order to create policy. So what I would love to do, and I would love the Shuttleworth Foundation to help me do, is to create an open source urban design network or initiative. I'm not going to lie and say I know what exactly the end goal looks like, but I think it's going to be an exciting process in understanding the language of design. You know what spaces you feel safe in. You intuitively know when you feel hemmed in, when you feel safe, how far you're comfortable to walk. Those things we're familiar with. We understand our bodies in space. But how that translates into the way spaces are made, I think is a very exciting combination. So what I'm essentially proposing, and I must apologize, this is sort of really coming from the heart, because I think it's important to not kind of make it too stifling. I want you to know I'm passionate about this, is I would like to understand how it is that we empirically research democracy, democratic space making, and how that information is disseminated in a way that we can create a more open dialogue around the spaces that are being created for us. So, this is how I see it rolling out, but I would love input, and I'm not so attached to the idea that I am not interested in, working together as a team. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to create design parameters through a series of design storm sessions, which will be starting in the next month or so, where we get individuals together to understand how from a research method point of view, we would really understand democratic space making. Then move to a case study where we look at how people are in space now. How do public spaces work? How do people engage with each other across socioeconomic boundaries, across time, and across scale? And then the idea is then to make that information available in a way where we test it at larger scales and smaller scales. Hopefully empowering people to understand more about the space that they live in and helping government to make better decisions about how we live. I'm so passionate about this, and I would love to chat to you more about it. Thank you so much for your time and for the informality of this video.